Yasser Alsaied, ex-Amazon, of course, now involved in various businesses. One of our most popular, if not the most popular podcast episodes we ever had. It staggers me at how accurate some of the statements that you made were.
I should bet on stocks better. That you see the little startups that does AI applications are very fast to bring innovative things. And we saw so many examples of innovative company. When you do M&A, they disappear. People who are building now these specific AI era applications, they're so scared.
If someone really is that passionate and believe in it, then success comes later, right?
It would. The bottom line is you need those data points, because without it, your solution will give you irrelevant answers.
The fact that we're sat here today in Dubai, I wanted to talk to you around the MENA region and growth of technology, AI.
If you don't follow the speed, you can see opportunity in it. Well, stay aside, because if you have a high speed movement, you gotta have the right wheels on it.
In the race to AI, it's the senior leadership teams in these businesses that need the right people to deliver it.
It's essential, because sometimes crazy ideas is the next billion-dollar idea.
Yasser, welcome back.
Hi, Tom. Good to see you in person.
I know.
3D this time.
I know, in 3D. It's always funny when you meet someone in person after knowing them such a long time. You kind of sometimes don't know what to say. It's like, you're real, you're here, you're not a hologram.
My fear always, and it happened to me a lot of time, is when I meet someone after so many times online, is how tall they are. Because, and it happened like recently when I met some of the people, like just last week, and the gentleman is like 6.5 and I'm a 5.6. So it was a little intimidating. I praised them, and it was a discussion that it just broke a beautiful ice.
Yeah. It's always so funny, but it's so great to see you in person out here in sunny Dubai, of all places, right? So this is going to form quite a lot of a topic of our conversation today about the MENA region and the advancements that we've had. So, Yasser, you need no introduction, but I'll give you a small bit anyway. So Yasser Alsaied, ex-Amazon, of course, now involved in various businesses. One of our most popular, if not the most popular podcast episodes we ever had on the IoT podcast, right? So we're thrilled to do this in person. And today we want to talk a little bit about some of what we spoke about back in 2023, but also kind of predictions for the future. So maybe to kick off, so back in 2023, 2 years ago, we were talking about the prediction of IoT and edge-based technologies. And actually reading through this show flow, it staggers me at how accurate some of the statements that you made were.
I should bet on stocks better.
Double down on those stocks, Yasser. So a couple of key quotes that you mentioned in the past was around factory and vehicle data still being locked on on-prem systems and IoT becoming more essential, not just being a proof of concept anymore. And are we seeing that today? Are we seeing some of these systems now becoming enterprise and built into how businesses really work day to day?
So yeah, it's great. Like when you sent me those quotes that I've said, and I start to examine myself, am I just blabbing, or I have something that's processing properly on my brain, which I felt really good. The amount of things we've seen indication about before, and the accuracy of where things are coming, and definitely we are seeing those changes. I mean, if you think about IoT was a hard sell when I was in Qualcomm before Amazon, we're building the fabric. Like the whole business unit wasn't doing anything except machine to machine. So it was like probably like a water meter or something like that. There was no concept of IoT as a fabric of hardware to build adjacent to mobile network or like where it's LAN or all that stuff. So the fact that you want to have connectivity secure and at scale for devices that's like $5 was a little bit not very popular in the businesses. Yet we had some visionaries in Qualcomm back then. It was like the CEO Cristiano, who actually came to Saudi Arabia and the Gulf and all that. So he understood that back then, and we created this activity of IoT and joint venture with some of the Asian companies like Tencom, for example, which created between TensorSoft and Qualcomm. And we started putting these devices as a fabric of the IoT, which now we are at 40 billion devices. Now, it doesn't mean that everything is operating the way that we imagined it will operate, but these things will take steps. You build the fabric, you address use cases that's using the fabric. Now you have something almost, you can say, commoditized, which is, it's an assumed thing. Everything is connected. It's an assumed thing that will be secure. It will be assumed that it's not going to be attended for. That means you're going to need battery. You're going to need like remote sensing, remote management. These things, when we imagined the world back then, today we see it in front of us. I mean, I'm not going to make this an advertisement for all the startups we talked about and so on before, but in reality, it doesn't take you much, especially with the generative AI applications right now, to know that these devices exist, the fabric of the IoT of the world that became so essential, specifically in the LLM world when you're building the large language model. Because you probably heard this and the viewers, we ran out of the internet. We ran out of the data, and you get enterprise. Now we're going to run out of the enterprise data. How are we going to refresh all of this? How are we going to have new data? What is the things going to bring you fresh data? It is the IoT. It's the cameras, it's the sensors, the telematics of the car, is the crowd management devices. This will bring in and enrich your LLM to become relevant. So it doesn't give you an answer that's stale. So yes, we are seeing that. Are we seeing unlocking on the vehicles? Absolutely. The most traditional car manufacturer who refused to go even online. Like, they got everything inside. It's a secret sauce how to paint a car, for example, or something like that. That's what, some of them thought. Figured out, oh my God, if we stay that way, there's a lot of big names examples. So I'm not going to put the names here in the online that thought they are so immune of things and they just disappeared. So the flexibility to be open and to be flexible on what to bring up to the IoT world from data perspective, from scale perspective, is becoming to penetrate all these industries. That's very stubborn. The hardest, the industrial, which we're going to talk about later more. But I'm very proud of some of the car manufacturer. Of course, Tesla is a model for what the car can be. But it's not enough to have one company in the world that understands exactly how things will go. Lucid is also, I love Lucid, by the way. I drove it in the Bay Area. One of my friends bought one recently, and I drove it. It's such a beautiful car. Actually, I own zero stock in Lucid, just to let you know. And I don't own Lucid.
And this isn't sponsored by Lucid.
No. But I have to say, the car is like, it was a super Tesla new cars, like the new design that they have, they start to become so sexy, and the light, the LED light in the back, is like, now we want to look at it. So the industry of automotive is accelerating to unlock. There's a famous German car manufacturer that when I did the deal between Qualcomm, Amazon, and BMW for the ADAS on the cloud, who would think the ADAS system will be on the cloud? Because BMW had this amazing vision that, wait a second, we cannot just wait to do everything ourselves. And the impact of updating ADAS system, we can use all the data in the world, and then we can produce the best out of it to the world. So, like in 23, we would if we open our mouth to any of these manufacturers about the capability to do that and why you want to do that, they say no. We are actually, until today, there's car manufacturers said, I do my thing. This is the stuff that I want to do. I want to control. I don't want to share. So, but that movement start to crack down. Lately, just last week, there's one major U.S. car manufacturer opened up to a non-on-prem solution for data analytics, which I was so happy about. And it was announced. I'm not going to be like in this podium to actually talk about it. But that tells you even the most stubborn car manufacturer that did not want to go with the progressive method for data and data analytics and going like online with these things and use what is available, start to actually become more leaning towards. China played a big part of that. We also, with the SU7 from Xiaomi, with the U8 from Huawei, I think it's Huawei. It's incredible piece of car. I mean, you don't want to drive it. It's just a piece of jewel sitting in with all the technology and all the ability. So that industry is accelerating and will push other industries to follow, whether it's energy, whether it's even parts, logistics, supply chain. It will have to follow.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I mean, some of the cars today, I just think are really magical, right? And it seems as though there's less focus on the engine, the internal combustion engine, because actually the motors is fairly simple, right? From when it comes to electric drivetrain, so the emphasis is on the in-car entertainment, the infotainment, the driver systems, the advanced driver alert systems, as you mentioned, but use of LiDAR and other technologies, and it's really an interesting time, isn't it? In automotive, and I think China is certainly advancing very, very quickly with some of its brands. I was in a BYD yesterday, and I just couldn't believe the quality right inside of that car for the price point. So I think it's a really interesting time. So one of the other things that you mentioned, a few years ago was you said, and I quote, you said, "Give it another 3 years, and we will be selling human companion robots for older generations in the home." Now we're coming up to that point. And I'm smiling, right? And you can see me smiling because this is very topical at the moment as well, isn't it?
Yeah. So I have been always fascinated about robotics, even like back in, I think it was 2016. My colleagues, ex-colleagues and current friends from Qualcomm can remember this very well. There was this project of making a human assistant robot by a Japanese company. And they came to Qualcomm because we had the Snapdragon back then. Like Snapdragon is now, everybody knows about Snapdragon. Before, people just try to ask, what is Snapdragon? And go Google it or something. But they came and said, we want to have like a super processor, and it's like efficiency and energy and all that stuff, battery operated. And we want to build a human helper. And, the government wanted that because all society actually now, there's a lot of growth in elderly, and global health system is collapsing. I mean, it doesn't stand for what is needed in all countries. We cannot even target any country. There's a lot of population that's going older. When is the last time you heard there is a new hospital or new technology in hospitals? And I hope to touch on my friend Dr. Taha. He's the CTO of GE Healthcare, what he's doing. But we are still in the beginning of a lot of changes has to take place. In the meantime, people grow every day. People are sick and sit at home. We have our own family, for example, challenges with all the elderly people. And it would help a lot to have an assistant at home. It helped people's back. It helped people to actually have a little bit of sleep, to who's helping them as a family. So that project started 2016, and the idea was we're going to have this physically fit robot that actually can serve itself by battery charging. Like, think about the vacuum cleaner, iRobot, for example. Change, it knows where it's going. Go dump the whatever load that it has, charge itself, go back, and so on. It go a little bit. I mean, that's like 10 years old or more technology. So thinking of 2016, which is about 9 years ago. Thinking about why don't we put something with arms, and it doesn't have to have legs. It can move on wheels as well, but it's capable to recognize camera vision. The computer vision is there. The sensors are there. The electromechanical parts are there. The robots has been operating in manufacturing for the past 25 years at least, with very sophisticated software and hardware. So that can be scaled down to a human level. So the possibility from technology point of view is there. Putting it together and making business value of it is the things that has to be worked on. It's not difficult or challenge. It needs support by, regulation, support by financial community to believe in it. You're not going to sell 1 million robot, but you're going to sell like 2 billion phones. So where are you going to put your money on, for example? But that was then. Then the numbers start to show. When China society going older and thinking about the next 20 years, who's going to be in the factories, and those numbers are going to be dropping because there was a time when China had one kid's policy. So they accelerated robotic operation in the manufacturer. Now, if you look at China, the robots working in factories and warehouses, including robotic forklifters and all these things like pallet movers as well, is more than the total amount of robotic in the entire world. So this is a serious trend in the business. So what does that mean? There will be more software, more solution, more technology in the electromechanical, new companies like one of the humanoid company in China. I've been discussing with them because one of my focuses right now in Facilis, as you know, building the brain. So we use all of these APIs, agents, LLMs, agnostic to any of them, agnostic to any cloud, and wire an expert brain. And that expert brain can operate from its knowledge, experience, but when you put it in a situation where it will learn it will learn it and operate on it. I'll give you the analogy. And I have a very simple analogy because I'm a simple person with analogies. It helps me understand. Do you know what shawarma is? You know, the Arab world knows shawarma, which is like it's a sandwich that have a meat inside, like chicken or beef. It's called shawarma. Very famous. People in America knows it, and Europe knows it even more. So the best shawarma chefs, and usually are mom and pop shops in the Middle East somewhere, like in the middle of Damascus or somewhere else. So my dad is from Damascus, so I'm gonna take the example of Damascus. So in Damascus, there's an area in Medan that have these shawarma shops. Literally, it's a wall in a hall, but they're next to each other. And somehow everybody get their loyal customers. They put the chair outside and they chit chat. And if somebody finishes their stock, they tell the customer, "Oh, go to this person. You can go." If you take one of those people who've been for a generation doing shawarma sandwiches, because it has the specifics, the right seasoning, the right cooking, all that stuff, and you tell them, "Look, I'm gonna pay you and give you equity in a shop I'm gonna open in Riyadh, in Saudi Arabia, or in Dubai or something." First question, their answer, they will say, "No way, I'm not gonna move." That's the first thing. That's the generation. Usually those shop 400 years old, 500 years old. But then you tell them, "I'll give you your weight in gold, and I just want you for 1 year. Train the people and come back." They might go. Okay, if I am the one, I will go. Because it's just an assignment, good money, train somebody, I come back. I didn't leave. So you bring him in to brand new shop of shawarma. It's not a hole in the wall anymore. It's really sophisticated. And you tell him, go at it. His experience will know how to do shawarma. He never had that setup. He never had the source of the meat. He never had the spices. It's going to take him a little bit of time to try, regulate, and give you the best shawarma, right? Okay. When you build the brain of a nurse or build the brain of a human helper and you put it on a humanoid, there's companies that does excellent electromechanical, skin sensors, if they fall, they stand, all that stuff. And I talked actually to an executive of one of them. Okay. Unitree. It's a very cute robot. It's very capable. They focus on the best electromechanical. By the way, it's one of like so many companies. It happened to be an example. I just because it's one of the coolest YouTubes that people are seeing them now and then. And it was interesting. So we reach out to them and Facilis actually to buy, and we put the order for one of them. They focus on the part, on the movement, electromechanical and the balance, etc., longevity of the battery, etc., etc., etc. You're not going to be an expert in nursing and painting and cooking and helping. That's where the ecosystem play. So company like Facilis, and there will be others probably in the future as well, where you bring all the knowledge that's available now and you wire a brain of an expert, remember the shawarma chef, and now you put him in a body, a humanoid, and he said, now you're going to help this elderly. They start to learn the house, start to learn who's the elderly, what's their sound, etc., and then become the best helper expertise available 24 hours for this particular environment. Well, you can download to become a cooker later. Or maybe the same, if it has enough memory, enough recipe, you'll be a cooker and helper. See where this is going?
I think it's such a wonderful thing, right? And it's such a great story that you told there about the chef and understanding the spices, etc. Because obviously the elderly companionship is so important, right? And there's lots of stories. I remember had a project with Vodafone and MENCAP in the UK 10 years ago around custom companions and calling systems for the elderly. And if you think about the time from where we were with that, right, with basically pagers or buzzers to now humanoid robots, it's almost science fiction becoming a reality. Yeah. And it's like, when did that happen? Like, when did the movies become real life so quickly? What do you put that down to in terms of, is it a coalition of technology advancements at the same time? And, to enable things like this to happen.
Yeah. So that's another kind of area where whenever I have any, even like a simple mentoring discussion, or working with executives on like strategic plans, it is extremely important to watch out the collaboration. Like enemy and friends and competitors, we need to humble. Now, you take the recipes of successful businesses, like business environment, and we in USA, in North America, specifically North America and Europe, that competitiveness that we have always pay big value on our own secrecy of operation. I wouldn't go as far as greed, but I would go as race of excellence, race of becoming the bigger and the better, and at value at at technology. What that kept the culture of, we're gonna keep everything to ourselves. We're gonna be the big Kodak. I'm gonna use names that are just like Kodak. What happened in we're gonna be the big, the story of Gillette, for example, and stuff like that. And that helped in certain era when innovation was key to change life, from, riding horses to riding cars to, combustion engine from like steam engines and all that stuff. So, well, steam is combustion. I mean, like using other fuel. So, but we are in an era, the scale required from technology is far more than any one or two or coalition of companies or like an MA with dozens of MA can do. You got to focus on an area that you are very good at and work with people who are other area. There is so my ex-boss in Qualcomm is retired, an unbelievable gentleman. He really retired. He have like a farm in somewhere in the state, and he's just enjoying his life. I love him, Jeff Lorbeck. So he worked 34 years in Qualcomm, and I was blessed in my 14 years to be. He was like my boss directly and indirectly, and he have this beautiful analogy he told me about. He told me few, but this one specifically. Think about like a basketball team. And so you got a hockey team, you got basketball team. Let's not say hockey because that's a professional sport. Let's say kindergarten soccer. Soccer in USA and is like the football. So and here we call it football in the Middle East as well, by the way. So you know how I've went to those football games, soccer games with the kids, and everybody goes together, and then sometimes they even score their own goal and all that stuff. And look at the basketball. The analogy that Jeff told me. When you're in defense, defending the basket, you rely 100% on your forward colleague to score, but you will never leave your area because you never know at 1 second it will turn back and there's somebody defending the basket. And when you are in the front, you depend on the one in behind to defend the basket and you stay. So the basketball, by the way, I don't do well in basketball. 5'6" doesn't help you with basketball. So anyway, that's my friend that's 6.5. You can help. I told him, why you're a tech? You should have been a basketball player. So, the companies have to operate this way. You need to sit down and say, okay, I am really good at that. And my vision is going that I want to specialize in it. Who can help me? And that's a perfect answer I got from China. On Unity, for example, we are good in robots. We're going to focus on robot, the electromechanical, the control system, the hardware, the software, the battery. And I'm not authorized to talk about them more, but I'm just saying it as an example. And so, yeah, but it's just an example. But that's a success criteria that helped Taiwan, helped China to really succeed. If you think about the semiconductor industry, TSMC didn't do everything. TSMC have an ecosystem of hundreds of companies like Spill, SE, or all these companies. Magic for bumping the gold, for example, for people who know semiconductor. 20 years in semiconductor, you've met a lot of people. And the ecosystem in Hsinchu or Kaohsiung or those areas is dozens of these companies. And they became a major player in semiconductor that actually managed the geopolitics. China managed to become the supply chain controller, literally. How? Did it, one company did it all? No. There was an ecosystem of things. One does the contract manufacturing, one does the supply chain, one does feeding the people, one does building the dorm of the workers. And that ecosystem and even in technology, software, hardware, solution, build that strength. Because with group, if you take like arrows, one arrow, you can break it. You put, and this is an old story of Arab elderly tell us, and you read it. If you put a bunch of arrows together, it's hard to break. Yeah, and yeah, it will be like more focus and will be with strength together. I see it in China, I saw it in Taiwan, but it can be applied anywhere else. I'm not going to mention countries. I'm not going to mention companies. In the other hand, you look at some companies that thought they will do everything themselves, keep branding, keep building, keep branding. It becomes so big, so hard to move. And now we are in industries, in the AI, where everybody's saying startups will bring the solution, because these mammoths, even if they're going to build solution themselves to sell it internally, they will have a challenge, let alone selling a customer who's going to trust, like, wait a second, you don't even use your stuff. And it's apparent, I'm not going to mention names, but it's apparent that you see the little startups that does AI applications are very fast to bring innovative things rather than, do what the other people are doing. They're just going and specialize in area, building it, be the best at it. They bring solution. And then it's up to somebody. I've seen a lot of startups refuse to do M&A with big companies. Just leave me alone. Because if you suck this in your big system, it's going to just go nowhere. And we saw so many examples of innovative company. When you do M&A, what happened to them? They disappear. Many examples of M&A that went in a wrong direction after they got bought by big companies. Some good examples, but there's a lot of bad examples.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's quite staggering to hear that, actually, because a lot of startups, they're passionate about what they do, but their vision is to sell that business to a larger.
Changing.
Yeah,
it's changing, Tom.
Yeah,
because there's exiters. There are people that are exiters, but people who building now these specific AI era applications, they're so proud and scared that it's going to be destroyed by the. There is choice. There is companies that actually allow you to go in and operate alone. There's some smart companies exist in top 10 as well. But there's some companies people are afraid to get in them because they know they're going to get swallowed and probably destroyed.
Yes.
So it depends how much passion and belief in what you are building.
Yes. Yeah. And that's actually quite humbling as well, I think, for a lot of people, because if someone really is that passionate and believe in it, then success from a monetary aspect comes later, right? It's about the actual product, the service, what you're doing. And I think that answers our question around a human companion robot in such a nice way as well, right? It's that whole coalition of tech and different systems coming together at this right time is quite staggering. One of the last key quotes that you mentioned in our previous podcast, Yasser, was around IoT isn't just a nice to have anymore, right? And it is quite funny, actually, but I'm sat here with two devices. I think I have one in my pocket as well, right? So 2025, is that true? And how true is it?
Oh God! Imagine a sudden sun ray wave came and killed the IoT sensor for like 2 seconds, 3 seconds, or let's say 10 seconds, or a minute. Can you imagine the problems going to happen? Okay. Well, personally, myself, I'll just take it myself. So my wife is great in tech usage, and that's actually something interesting. Like people who build tech, and we just talked about my phone, right? Is the most that they kind of not keen to jump to tech because we know how, good enough for us. And that's sometimes when engineers lead companies, the go-to-market motion get impacted negatively because they think either that, okay, this is a good enough technology, this is what we're going to do, and then the messaging become wrong because then you're just a yesterday technology, or they become, we're going to build the best technology in the world and we keep going, and they miss the need that was like yesterday and they become a little early. But I think IoT, we built the fabric, build the service. It's now at scale in specifically AWS, my team that I was running the IoT. You get billions of devices connected and growing, billions. Okay, thousands and thousands of customer. It doesn't go down. Now the habit could go up and down. Depends. Would you want imaging every second? Do you want imaging every minute? It depends on the business value. So I'm not saying it's just going to be go, 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 go. It's not about that. It's about the business value in the end, what it means. For example, when you go in a technology that everybody thinks, one of the very big energy companies came to me, the CIO guy, and we met in Barcelona, and he said to me, Yasser, listen, I am exceeding my quota every year in collecting data. What to do with it? I'm afraid not to collect it. I'm collecting it, but I have no idea what to do with it. But then when they figure out the value of the data, they said, I don't have to collect every second now. Actually, it's enough for me to collect we go back to the first principle of statistics. Like, do you really need to sample for every unit, or do you want to sample for every 100? Because now you have the value, business value connected to the solution. Then suddenly you'll see some economics changes of the usage, not usage, and some go up very high and some get regulators. But the bottom line is you need those data points and you need injection of data to come in, because without it, you're going to be yesterday, or your solution will give you irrelevant answers. So it is absolutely essential. It's part of life now. Back to my wife's solution, she loved those technologies. She put these trackers. There's a lot of joke about that, too. Don't go there. She put a lot of trackers for me on my bags and this, and because I tend to engage, and then sometimes, where's my bag or this, and because I travel a lot, tracker helped me. Did my bag reach its point? And if it's not, and then I will tell the airline people, my indicators say that, can you please put a trace on it or something? And there's enough technology now, even in the luggage system, that by watching the label, they can exactly tell you where is the luggage. Some airports are updated. Unfortunately, a lot of our Western airports are pretty darn older, but the new ones, you can see. You tell them about the tag, it tell you, oh, it's right there within seconds. So these things are essential. The cars, etc.
Yeah. Well, it's it's so accurate. I mean, we did a podcast actually with I think it was Pelion, talking about tracking through adhesive tape as well, right? So actually pulling tracking systems into the tape. So it wasn't so long ago that popular products such as AirTags, and there are other tracking systems available that people were buying. And now we're actually intertwining it to, the actual...
It's part of it.
Yeah,
it's
part of it.
The sensors, for example, if you look at ABB, okay, the engines. So remote monitoring, remote management of these equipment, very expensive equipment. Up until almost last year, or this year even, a lot of the companies will only know the equipment is damaged when they see a smoke. When they see a smoke, they say, oh, we got a problem. Sometimes those things bring disaster. Okay. So there's, I mentioned to you before, the Shoreline AI company. It's a sensor company from the Bay Area. Very little company, very innovative. Currently, they won deals with big energy company. And Kishore, he told me, we have our equipment in places that no human have been for the last 40 years. Like those, oil pumps and all that stuff. And he said, we see it now. If you look at Google, the only place you see these things are in Google Map, the map mode, right? The satellite mode, I mean. And he showed me this thing in the YouTube. I said, now we are looking at bringing industrial, the older type, because people understand the value of remote sensing and understanding what's happening in the machine. Because if it blew up, when the spare part will happen, that if you don't talk about disaster that it created, when are you going to get a new machine? This machine has been put together like 40 years ago. Who can manufacture it for you? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And COVID era have taught us to be accounted and thinking and planning for those things. How many factories just shut down because suddenly you can't have people in Italy produce the same part again? Well, even now we have a problem. I have to change a grill in one of my cars, and to order that little piece from Germany, we had to wait for 2.5 months. Even today's world, it's a plastic piece. So why? Why? So it's. I think the essential part is proven. Yeah, we're not going to go back. It's going to be increased. More technology, more solution will come, more scale will happen.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, and I can completely agree. I think the point you mentioned there around the remote sensing in factories and in industrial contexts is often it's been slow to move in the past, but now we're seeing actually adoption in quite a key way, right? You spoke about when the machine breaks, but of course now we can say that actually the sensor is saying that the heat's too high.
Something is the sound of it, the vibration, all of these technologies available. There is enough sensor technology. TDK, they bought many companies of sensor, and they have these little coin sensors. It doesn't even need battery. They just from the motion they actually collect the energy they need. Yeah. So Jim Tran, he's the CEO of the TDK in North America. It's my friend. He's ex-Qualcomm as well, and we chat about these things, like put it in the tire, and it doesn't cost much anymore. So having it on tire, having it on things that moving, get some energy, but also get a lot of information. So they can say, well, this SKU of the tire doesn't do well in Canada, but it does well in Riyadh or Dubai or Abu Dhabi or Qatar, because it's a heat and the type of asphalt. And you see the different environment, of course, being from England, and now you're here in the Middle East. So you need to have a different SKUs on things. The only way to know it is to get analytics or data from these devices and analyze and say, wait a second, I don't have to sell, winter tires in Saudi Arabia, for example. You probably want like these balloon for the sand.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that brings us on quite nicely to the fact that we're sat here today in Dubai. So I wanted to talk to you around the MENA region in general and growth of technology, AI. And, we were walking towards a podcast studio today, and, I could genuinely see how excited you were about the news just in the last 4 to 5 days that's been coming out here. I mean, it really is quite staggering, isn't it, in terms of what's actually happening in this region. Why do you think that is?
So if you look at the success factor that brought, I always like to bring the examples in life. If you look at the things that brought new economy and new trends and new wealth in certain regions, and you just examine, if you take that recipe and apply it somewhere else, what would happen? So in the free economy world, innovation and free will and entrepreneurship is available, and you can be as much as you want because the environment allows you to do that. And there is good education. There is usually the immigration spot to get the best out of the best, and people have dreams and build up. But there's areas, nations in the world cannot migrate entire nation to somewhere else to be successful. But so they have to think locally to succeed. Example of Singapore comes to mind, right? Actually, Rwanda. If you think about how Rwanda changed from where it was, and they focus on certain things that become like have a big value to Africa and the world. But I want to go to something that techies understand so well, Taiwan. I don't know how many people know that in the 70s, up until 70s, and when Taiwan became a nation, it was based on agriculture economy. Tea, things that they grow, it's local. There is no oil, there is no minerals, there is no tourism, there's nothing except vegetables and fruits and whatever can grow in Taiwan, and the tea. And they have a big pride in tea. Actually, the Taiwanese tea is amazing, by the way, especially the winter tea and the spring tea. And the oolong is a taste like you don't have to put any sugar in it, and you can feel the sweetness back in there. It's just the brewing style. They have so much pride. You go to the tea shop. I've spent a lot of time in Taiwan, and I have a lot of friends in Taiwan, actually. AJ Hong is the chairman of Acton, biggest factory in Taiwan. Is a close friend. We always have these connections together. And we went to these very specialized places for tea, and they have big pride of it. But Taiwan was that. And then Taiwan government thought, no, wait a second, we cannot grow on tea and vegetables and fruits and those things. So they asked Morris to come from, he was in TI, I think in the USA in the 70s, and to build a fab, microelectronic fab. And they decided, okay, this is what we're going to do. And with all the challenges, they don't have the money for it. So they got investors, from Japan and others, and they built what TSMC is. And they encouraged the people, made the investment environment, change all the rules, and become a driver. The tech became the driver of Taiwan. I remember the time when electronics and things were not made in Taiwan. They were made in Hong Kong, because Hong Kong was under British rule. It was kind of an open economy, operated in an Asian setup where you have the supply chain, you got the seaport, or you can get anything you want from around you, basically. And the chips used to be done by Intel and others, like flash memories in Malaysia and not in Indonesia, mostly Malaysia back then. And that's where things are at. And you are in a hub. And it was a transit place, Singapore, Hong Kong. So it was easy to Japan. You get from Japan stuff and you supply the world. So it was made in Hong Kong, a lot of that. Then it's the made in Taiwan start to happen. And Taiwan the focus was, and somebody in the foreign ministry told me years ago, he said, listen, the instruction was this. If you touch anything in Taiwan, if you are importing it from outside, that means there is a factory for it in Taiwan, opportunity. Even the plastic bag, they did tanks, they did satellites, they did plastic bags, needles, but everything else in between. Focus, support from the government, environment for build, funding, broad funding, and so on. They don't have the energy, they have to figure it out, etc., etc. China did the same. We know SMIC, SMIC, and I lived that era, so that's why I see it in front of me. So it's not a magic recipe, by the way. And China supported the government, allowing foreign investors to come, even with facilitation from China, good environment for the foreign companies to come, multinational companies to come in, big real estate, big amount of people to work with, at scale. They rule manufacturing and logistics, like a supply chain. And it is what it is right now. So now you have two mega powers in the tech at scale, not tech innovation. There's innovation as well, but at scale. I mean, that's what brought these two countries on the road of technology. You look at the Middle East. In my opinion, not as a Middle Eastern, there is nothing to prevent this to repeat in every single country in the Middle East, especially Saudi Arabia, Emirates, Qatar, and where the energy is cheap and available, Oman, and basically the GCC. So you look at it, okay, you got 60% under 40, you got youth. Saudi Arabia have 350,000 young people who are specialized for tech, available workforce. You got patient cash available from the government. You got sponsorship, endless sponsorship to do tech and so on and so forth. You got land, cheap energy. It is, no matter how you shape it. And yes, there will be challenges in, what can be balanced environmentally friendly and what to do solution about that. There's enough tech for that. We have so much tech about, how to, make sure that we have balanced energy and environmentally friendly solution and what to do about waste and so on. Let's bring it and use it all. Whatever is applicable to the industry, bring it on. So don't destroy the path because, like, for example, the ethane gas, now there's every day there's $1,000 like a fee if a company have tanks, basically, which, let's say the USA, there's thousands of these tanks. if there's a buildup on methane gas, it goes up. I'm saying it properly. Methane. In Arabic, it's methane.
Yeah, methane.
Methane.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is kind of the same almost. So when it seeps out, you get actually a fine, a daily fine. So there's a lot of innovation about detecting it and so on. And then all of a sudden, these brilliant people in Shoreline, they found out that actually a characteristic of the tank, and because their sensor have ML. It's an ML. It used to be called ML. It is still ML. I don't know if they're going to do AI in it, or I don't know. But it sends a different sound from the tank. The tank becomes, there is a signature of a tank on a day and night, expansion and traction. But then there's some inside buildup. There is a different sound. So it learned that. And then they took it and then downloaded on the software for all this. And now it gives the indication for the oil company, say, you're getting buildup there. They go and cap. I don't know what they do with it, by the way. But they at least release it rather than paying thousands of dollars a day. Because when it happens in one, it will happen in hundreds of them. So you can calculate the number. So back to the Middle East and MENA region. So if you take that recipe, which is, I'm not the genius to saying it, it's just there. And you say, okay, I have a patient cash, I have the space, I have the youth, I have the need from the world. Why not make another Taiwan and Singapore and China? Absolutely possible. This is what we're seeing. When did you see world power, politically, financially, technically, come together and put a plan on things in trillions of dollars for high-tech, data centers, AI, etc., etc., etc.? But it's not going to stop there. If you build the data center, you need the software, the solution, use cases addressing. There's all kind of logistics of, now you build the software and solution. Now it's residing here. What does it mean to the world? Because the massive amount of data is not for consumption for a country of 30 million people or 3 million people. It's not. It's for global consumption. What's the logistic to build on the software and even the governing of how to provide these solutions remotely? And that's where you think, that's why it's very important to keep an eye on the growth of the infra, so people know where to invest, the growth of the cloud technologies and micro services, as well as the solution software that's built over it. Because in the end, you need that to use this. So I see a brilliant move by the world leaders in tech and finance. There's nothing, there's people in the tech world. They don't accept things just because of, political gain or anything like that. If they doesn't make sense to them, they would say, I'm not going to do it. It's a hard sell for them because they only are pragmatic. They're a pragmatic tech leader who made billions. So you're not going to influence them by, hey, we're going to give you like a podium in the royal court or something like that. That doesn't move them. But what will move them is a real business opportunity at a global scale. That's what we saw in Washington 3 days ago, when His Royal Highness the Crown Prince was there with all the business from Saudi Arabia and met all the tech leaders in the world. And, President Trump and so on. We're not seeing a show. We're not seeing just a photo op. We are seeing the globe is coming together for what really needed for the globe. And we chatted a bit about when did you see such movement from the entire globe coming together? There's some of it in 2008 with the bubble of the real estate but there was a little bit of intervention from governments to just help the local economy and local household or the banks and so on. Go backward in 2001, the bubble, the internet bubble. I started my techies in 1995, so I was living that. We didn't see government intervention. We said, okay, the strong will stay. The real McCoy will, I don't know that's to say. The real thing will stay. But they didn't intervene, right? They intervened a little bit here. Of course, I'm not talking about wars and stuff. That's a different, I don't even know about that stuff because why to intervene? I'm talking about tech and finance and society. So we saw the 2008 intervention, but what we're seeing now is a collaboration at scale of globe that is so strong that even if we have some negative views, sometimes we examine our own thoughts. Is it a bubble? Okay, so what is the bubble? Can we just describe what bubble we're talking about? I think when you see a collection of smart people, maybe not everybody's smart in that gathering, but let's say a lot of them are smart people, agree on a plan with such scale, specifically in MENA region, specifically in Saudi Arabia, the last few days, right? 2 weeks ago, I think it was, when Microsoft announced a $15 billion in the UAE. Why would you do that? Why? Nobody bent the arm of anyone to do that, because they saw a business case that's going to help their shareholders to provide the technology in this region. Is it for this region? No, it's for global.
Well, I mean, precisely. And I think the other element of Microsoft's investment, along with other high-tech companies in the space, is it creates a ripple effect and a domino effect, right? So more and more people start looking at the area, and more people want to join, and you see this kind of crescendo of technologies, and I think there's just a lot of ambition in the region. Would you say that was accurate?
It's almost like so accurate. It's almost like those mattresses before, or some even older style beds. I don't know if you have this in the West, because in Lebanon, my mom's uncle used to do these beds that have the base have little springs.
Yes.
Like
it's a pocket spring, I think.
That's a very new thing. Older it wasn't. You can see the spring. So it was a layer of like metal. I think if you hit your leg, it will break a skin or something. Like a metal thing that have these springs. And he used to actually do it by hand. He passed away, God bless his soul. He used to everyone by hand and tie it by hand. And you have this mattress, like it's not a mattress, it's a metal thing. And then you put over it a cotton or wool mattress. Like this is like almost a mattress that has just cotton or wool that tied with strings in the middle, so it doesn't go like left or right. It just stays. And you put over that bed, and that bed you can jump on it entire day and nothing happened to it. It's a freaking tank. Okay, so imagine. And I had this in my brain because I was in his shop one day and I see how he does it. It's in Lebanon, so when we have summer, because I lived in Riyadh. So in the summer vacation, we used to go to Lebanon, my mom's family, my dad's family in Damascus. So it's a better weather, it's cooler and all that stuff. So you take a break and come back. So I always imagined the region have this youth and availability of energy, availability of funds, smart people to actually do something. And I saw this ambition in the students that come to the United States of America or Canada. So I left in the 80s, right? And I saw students that came from this region. I saw how bright they are. Because when I saw them, and in some capacity, I was like in a high tech and they're doing like a tour or something, I get excited because this is from home. It's interesting because you see them from home. You could consider them like your young brothers or sisters or your daughter or son, and you say, "How are you doing? Are you doing okay? What are you doing? What do you plan?" And you hear them, and I say, "Oh my God, that's full of optimism and energy, and it's different. It's different." And I knew since the start of this era of sending to study high tech in the West, because in traditionally, if I take the country I lived in, Saudi Arabia, they used to send people mainly to study medicine, some engineering, very little, just some. Nobody's interested to build back in my age. Nobody wanted to massively to go to study engineering. They study engineering here and go to their dad's company and do whatever, right? But in the last, literally, I would say 15 years, a lot of these movement became, I'm going to study nanotechnology. I'm going to study, software. I'm going to say, and then I talk to them. So they come with so much knowledge. They've been coding forever in high school. And that's why you see the most amount of users, even in Twitter days, X, biggest amount of users in the Middle East, I think, like even bigger, was Saudi Arabia. Content provider, YouTube, it's like the youth is a spring of these things using tech. And they went, and all these 10 years is high tech, and now they are back here. And of course, there's more coming and more going. But the entire university ecosystem start to come and build here. It's not just about money. You can't buy everything with money. And these people in Oxford and those things, they're not gonna come here just because they're gonna make another 10,000 a month or something like that. It's deeper than that, because this environment is progressing so quickly to the high tech and impact to the globe, that if you don't use that and use this platform, then you're missing out. And I always say, if you snooze.
Yes. Yeah, we were talking about that off air. I completely agree. I think the other thing alongside the ambition and the kind of change of mindset is the speed of which decisions can be made, right? Yeah. And it's very, very different to where I'm from. Without going into specific examples or crossing political boundaries, things move quickly.
It's a direction. If you have the leader and leaders of the country have a goal, and there's like one in the top of the pyramid is telling everybody, this is our goal, this is where we're gonna go. You gotta go fast, and if you cannot match up, sit aside, do something else. But if you want to go with this progress, whether locally or internationally, and you see how the company that could not make it with this journey, they were doing a lot of analysis and a lot of decision maker and a lot of noise on, what about other things that we care about? Well, it's okay. You can just keep caring about that. The train is moving. And you are one of the followers in LinkedIn to me. And you've seen sometimes I get so frustrated on things, and I speak my mind. I have been asked so many times in different companies I worked in, can we take over? Can we give you another? No. My brand is my brand. It will be having spelling mistakes. If I put it in, they have these now AI, right into the AI, it will sound not me at all. I mean, there's so many things, these words, I never use it in my entire life. So you can figure out it's not me. So my frustration sometimes said, look, if you don't follow the speed that you can see opportunity in it with this region, don't put like knife in it and stick in the wheel. Stay aside, please, because you'll be obvious. You'll be so obvious. Come on with the progress. Let's move on. We need to bring the right people in. Now, this is to me, I actually wrote a paper about that. There was some private discussion with me, and I always thought about the leadership availability. Leadership, not I mean the country leadership of technology companies, I mean. Available amount of leadership and technical teams, because it's not about just bringing leadership. It's like how you build a team, how you build an organization. Because if you have a high speed movement in progression for technology, you gotta have the right wheels on it. We just talk about engines and cars and so on. You can't have 3 different sizes wheels on the car. You can't have brake router that's like this big and the other one is smaller, and it doesn't work. It's just gonna flip. So you have to have the right spec of leadership and team and org to match the speed that you want in. The moment any of this doesn't work, the moment that any of this is not matching the requirement, you're not gonna have the right trip. And we see that all the time, anywhere in the world, by the way, anywhere. So I believe if what I was top of my mind, okay, there is a lot of element of success and technology available in the world to come in, and it's coming. Who's going to run it and who's going to build it? That's the next challenge we should really keep an eye on. We should.
Well, yes, I think that's a great point to touch on, right? The leadership and the kind of A-star players that are required, certainly within the MENA region, to be able to deliver on the ambitions and the vision of the region, right? And I think that, as you mentioned, there's a lot of good people, perhaps, at the coalface, at the engineering side, that are able to do, but they need that leadership and they need the right people to be attracted and to come and to take reins of that. And that's something that is quite a pressing topic, isn't it, for the region?
It is because there is a lot of projects. it's not about the 10 or 20 mega projects. You're gonna get good 20 mega project leaders. And I'm not talking just the top leader. I'm talking about like the -1 and the -2. Because if the top leader is great and he have or she have not so great, -1 and -2, then the wheel will fall off somewhere. So it is so critical to examine the organization professionally and to examine who are in what spot and have the right examination points. Is there a delivery? Is there the KPI is met? It's not financial KPI. It's not project line KPI. It's personal KPIs. How many you mentored? How many you hired? From the people who hired, who when left? Did they stay? What's their rate of longevity for them? Are they some people staying 1 year, 2 year, 5 years? Why there's some organization have people been there for 30 years, and some organization after 6 months, some of the key people, I say they're back to where they were doing or where they live, and I ask them what happened, and that feedback, the exit interview, need to be documented, because that exit interview will give you the solutions of what, or the area where you want to fix. Not to, because when you hire someone, it's not easy, especially if you get the right. Again, I'm talking about like the -1 and -2s, which is so critical, because that's the succession planning that you're gonna have. And if you don't have that, then if somebody got sick or got some family issues or died or something like that, you don't want the organization at speed of light to be interrupted. So to me, as much as it's important to go after the cash and the technology and the alignment, is to look at the human factor. Because we can't build humanoids to do our jobs, especially in building. Once it's built and operating, yeah, we're probably going to get humanoids to do our, day-to-day operation and things that is repeatable, and our people can do better things. It's not replacing. It's how many times you saw the technology replaced actually people did not create another opportunity. Think about calculators. Think about typewriters. Think about the horse riders versus cars. I mean, technology brings more opportunity statistically to the people when it replaces other things that people use. So I'm not worried about humanoid or robotics or any of that, because there's new things going to happen available to people to do the job.
Yes. But it's all, yeah, I mean, it's the productivity increases, right? The typewritist was worried when the computer came out, right? But of course, they didn't lose their jobs. They were just more productive because of it, okay? Yes, indeed. Yeah, perhaps with less repetitive strain injury. But I think it's almost poetic, isn't it, that in the race to AI and all forms of AI and the coalition of tech we have at the moment, it's the senior leadership teams in these businesses that need the right people to deliver it. And that is something that just cannot be lost in this.
It's essential. It's essential. It's the third leg in the tripod. It is. It's the human element, the type of organization, the succession planning, the entire kind of system of hiring and exit interviews, all that. It's all complete. And you can't just rely on AI for that. I mean, maybe there will be enough built knowledge for the companies to rely on the database they have and the knowledge they have to give them quick solutions or suggestions. That's how it's going to happen. It's kind of starting to happen. But in the building time, you got to have a lot of hard work to get the right people in place and keep the right people in place.
100%. Yeah, 100%. So a couple of other things I wanted to touch on today. I mean, obviously we talked about your previous quotes from a couple of years ago, talking about the MENA region in terms of its growth, etc. We face quite an interesting time in technology right now, and you've obviously been in this space for quite a long time. I think you were saying 30 years, isn't it?
So 30, almost 35, but I say I'm not counting some bad things.
You stop counting at this point.
Otherwise, I'll be aging so well up there.
So sorry to bring it up.
No,
anyway,
okay.
but you've been in this space for an advanced period of time. Has your perspective or focus changed at all when it comes to technology? Also touching on the kind of the leadership element of this. What's something that's changed your mind recently?
So
It's a big question.
Yeah, it's like it is, and we do examine our I would say what we are convicted with, what we think we should spend our energy on. We do change. I mean, people will have to change that or examine it. Let's say examine. Am I still sane, or I'm working after like insanity? Because technology is so fast. The wrong turn will get you in a wrong spot. I mean, even in let's talk about the hallucination in AI, right? It's funny how you and I play with it sometimes just to just understand how well it's aligned. And one wrong turn in an answer, if you keep going, if you're not expert at spotting these hallucinations, and nobody is, but if you're lucky to spot one, and you'll see the whole thing takes a wrong turn, comes with a so stupid outcome. And as simple as just a client ChatGPT thing or something, right? And you see, we're still early to get where we want. So sometimes you examine whether this is the same like a human brain. Sometimes we are convinced about something, but we become arrogant. There is a fine line between opinionated and arrogant. If I believe in something and I'm talking to people and they don't believe that, it doesn't mean that I'm doing the wrong thing or I'm crazy, because sometimes crazy ideas is the next billion-dollar idea. People sometimes, get discouraged. If you have an idea, you talk to, and then you immediately get blocked and created from human. But you are so what I tell people, young entrepreneur, and I said, in the room, who is the most expert in the topic you're talking about? It's you. So you're expecting anybody will be better than you? No, because if there is, then you are a me too, and the company already exists. So you are the only expert, and you have the right idea. Then you just make sure you explain to them as much as you can. And if they don't believe in it, then you have a billion-dollar idea, especially if you know exactly what you're doing. And this is actually what I tell some of, even including Facilis actually, is when I'm literally using quotes of meetings. When we talk to some of those people, like, customers or partners, or they said, this is like a magic thing. This is like, this is like a magic. And then when you show them, they think, is it like some tricky behind the scenes? It's not. That's how super technology is. But then you get discouraged a lot. But then I tell the team, I said, we have something that actually going to bring the $1 billion. I tell them that. So yesterday 2 days ago, I was in a meeting with a robotic company. So robotic arm company, very famous. And then we're explaining to them what can we do, the idea of a brain in a machine thing, right? They said, if this is true, this helps us a lot, because they deploy like different software to robotic to change their doing this to that. And right now they have to do it a lot manual work. And literally we tell them you can do it like within hours and at mass. And they said, if this is true, this is actually brilliant. It will help us a lot. I told the team, this is not to do any marketing. I told them, see, we convinced with this technology, anybody can do the same. Like anyone who bring in technology that's actually really key and they understand it, don't get discouraged. Keep going, because the speed is key. Now, with that, you always have to check and balances. Am I doing the relevant thing? I did actually a talk just recently. I think I sent you the clip about if you're doing some idea, make it globally relevant. Don't make it regionally, because then it will be as big as a region. I actually spoke to someone in a forum just a week ago, and they're very excited about they're doing something robotically in one of the local Middle Eastern countries. And it's brilliant. And I said, but this is the same what another dozen companies doing in China. Yeah, but this is good for this. I said, then this is your market only. You want to sell only for this? Young person and ambitious. And I said, if you want to build a company to sell only for here, like where he is referring to the company, then good. You probably need 2 people. That's your market. But if you want to be bigger, look what everybody is doing, see what is not happening, and innovate there.
Yeah, I mean, that's just such a poignant point to make there, right? In terms of the ambition and the growth and looking on a global scale, because otherwise you will, pigeonhole yourself into just one particular market, and that limits it, right? It limits the ability to grow and to scale and to have different customers and different access to different topics and meetings and so on and so forth. So I think it's really, really interesting. So if we were to look ahead, Yasser, to 2026, what are you watching most closely over the next kind of 18 months? What are the kind of 2 or 3 things which you think have the most potential?
Yeah. So from, and I see this, and of course the evidence you would probably think about will come to mind right away. I think smart edge will have a big focus. Why? Because there's a lot of focus on data centers, AI data centers, and there's a big, big, big force behind it. Government, tech, money. So that's happening. There will be not enough chips. There will be not enough cabins. There will be not enough probably water or energy and land. That's what we have to create, also energy and water technology as well for that. But these are known goals and known problems. We have to work on solution. What I think will grow more, what about the value using these things? Example, the word thank you, how many tree it burn if it goes all the way to the cloud. For a ChatGPT, for example, or
Right,
like a
okay.
Perplexity, or you can calculate actually a lot of burning of energy, just the word thank you, send it out to, and some people are like quite nice. And when, their client, I call it client generative AI. So because there's 5, 6 of them right now, big ones, Gemini's, etc., etc. If you say thank you and it goes to the cloud, you calculate the energy, it's the worst ROI ever on the tech company. On if you are paying for it, well, sometimes people have subscription, it doesn't matter really, like eat as you go, not eat as you go, all you can eat type of thing. But the negative side of it is if we are conscious, it's actually a lot. For a thank you, this is what's going to cost. What about making the thank you replied or appreciated on the phone or in the car? See how close that processing is. Bring in the SLM, the TLM, the small language model, the TLM. And as more solution become focused on the edge, infringing become more in the edge, experience and habits can be collected, processed in the edge, and then when it makes sense, bring it up to the cloud to update the LLM. So everybody can use. Don't do that connection all the time because there's a lot of wastage and less money to make. So I will look a lot into the edge side. I think we're going to see a lot more on the edge. Just being fortunate part of Qualcomm, I know how much edge can do. From power management, from processing power, from how much actually AI you can put on it. If you think about XR application, what's going to happen? You want to send everything in the XR back to the cloud? Well, you're going to be challenged because what about the battery? How much stuff you want to put in the eyeglass? It's a design challenge, but it's a beautiful design challenge to do rather than thank you and then come back. Even it's after 300 milliseconds, which is the journey, right? 300 milliseconds is nothing for you to come back. You're welcome, right? I mean, and you can see these delays sometimes happen. Thank you, X. Well, X now is something. Thank you, whatever. And then you'll see a delay. You're welcome.
Yeah.
How much you burn in this? It's a lot of money.
Well, of course, yeah. And I think that's a very, very interesting point there. So what you're basically saying is, in short, is you can process it on the edge if it doesn't need to go to the cloud in order to save compute
100%.
Yeah. And pleasantries are the easiest thing to process on the edge.
That's right. Exactly. Right away. And knowing what your habit is and and then that brings in entitlement and identity on the edge. And there's a lot of, there's actually a company that I'm helping out, which basically does focus on bringing your identity and entitlement and software everywhere you go.
Yeah, okay.
So your car, to rental car, to your airplane, for example, entertainment unit, and it just follows you. And imagine if you just get that, so you don't have to set up every time, and you don't have to go to the cloud to get the profile. So that spring of application and use cases will bring a spring of new startups as well as economy. So don't overwhelm with the big mega project. Those are foundations for what yet to come in the next 30 years. And I always think about 30 years. I don't think 2-3 years are a stock market thing. 5 years is a tech thing, like going from 5G to 6G. But if you think about society and country and economy, you need 2-3 decades. Because you want to know that the people who are studying in high school right now or middle school, what they're going to study in high school and what they're going to study in university or what they're going to be trained on. Because that's your economy 30 years from now.
Got it. It's a really interesting point. In terms of technology trends, so one of the things I wanted to talk to you about in 2026 is what are people underestimating right now? Obviously, we spoke about the edge. I would imagine the edge is probably underestimated somewhat, but is there something that's truly out there which has a lot more potential than people give it kind of justice?
I think industrial factories, like let's call it like basic as it is, factories. There's thousands and like tens of thousands of factories. The latest statistic actually I looked at, that so we talked before about the data is staying in the factory. 95% of the factories of the world do not use their data properly to their advantage. As recent as like week ago or 2 weeks ago, I have a discussion with an industrial person. And this literally, the discussion was, but we are used to this and we're happy with it. My answer was, but what if you can make more value out of it? With simple things, there's not heavy lifting. It's just like, take the data, run some software on it. It can tell you something that will give you another 2%, 3%. What's the margin of factories? It's very challenging, right? Some of them are like single digit. Most of them are single digit, if best. Some with the new technology, probably double digit in the teens. What if I give you another 1 or 2? Just to use simple. So there's a lot of potential in the industry and factories specifically. And I think anyone who get into that specified area to truly bring 4.0, Industry 4.0 or 5.0, everybody is still at 4.0 at best. Okay. But that's what I will see in 2026. If we talk again, I think we should examine what's happening in the industrial world, specifically to digitize and analyze and bring better outcome for business, not better technology. We can throw technology at everything because we have a lot of tech right now, but really bring the bottom line impact of it.
Fantastic. I think in the industrial context, we touched upon it earlier in the podcast, often has been slow to change, slow to move. And that's obviously something that's very interesting and that's top of your mind right now in terms of the underestimation. I guess one of my final questions today in what has been an excellent catch up with you, Yasser, it really has. If we were to sit down again at the end of 2026, what would you hope that we'd be talking about in the first topic of our conversation?
Well, it would be something about like what we're doing with water and energy. I'm honestly hoping more and more technology. It's going to be technology. It's not going to be at mass. It's not going to be something that's figured out. It's going to be long run. I am really sincerely worried about energy consumption and water availability because of what the technology wants to do with it. And I would be excited when I come and sit down with you and talk about, look at this technology, this cooling technology. There's a lot happening, right? And there's not something that's magic. Everybody thinks, of course, mine is the magic, but if you put it at scale, you'll find it's actually pressing on something else or using something else. And we cannot hide things under the carpet. Energy usage, even if it's in the Middle East, is cheaper, but still it's going to be massive. The grid, the risk of load, what sources we're going to use. Can we use clean energy? What does that mean? I'm hoping by the end of 26, when we sit down, we will have some good, I would say, path to answers. And the bigger one is water. like if you want to move even like currently for human usage, not in certain area because we have lakes. And so, for example, where I live in North America, the Northwest is like a lot of water, a lot of rivers, a lot of lakes, but that's not the world.
Oh.
And not where the world operates in factories and data centers. So water solutions, cooling solution, to me, I would be so excited if we come back and talk about something that's changing the game.
Yes. Yeah. Like, you know what? Likewise, I think I was listening to the news recently, just here in the MENA region. Obviously, the clean drinking water here is predominantly desalination, which is expensive and heavy in terms of energy costs as well, right? And
waste.
Yes. Yeah. But there has to be another way. There has to be a system and sort of tools that we can use, and it'll be interesting to see where we might be in a year with that. Yasser, thank you so much for coming back onto the IoT podcast. It's been quite a special episode doing this in Dubai with you. I know you're here doing lots of talks in the UAE at the moment and flying off to Oman, I think, on Sunday.
I'm going to Oman, then I'm going to Doha, Qatar. I'm going to Bahrain after that. And I'm so excited. It's like very squishy, kind of like 2-3 days each. But I'm meeting with magnificent people, talking about amazing topics. And it's just a choice in my, kind of this stage in my career life is to use all these 35 years and whatever I can.
Yeah.
To help the region. And I'm from here.
Yeah,
so
of course.
It will be much joyful than I could even ever imagine I'll be doing.
Oh, fantastic. Well, have a wonderful trip. Enjoy it. And people can find out a bit more about you, presumably follow you on LinkedIn and various other places. I'm sure just type your name into a well-known search engine or generative AI application.
I examined that, by the way. So like, is it saying the truth?
Yeah, indeed.
I caught some really weird ones, but that's okay.
Yeah, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, Tom. It's really a pleasure. Thank you very much for your time.